if you've stuck with us this long, a big thank you. Welcome back in. This is season 6, episode 47 of the Outlap F1 podcast, the 2024 Qatar GP. And we just wrapped up our review of the race itself. And now we're going to take a look at where all the points are. And there's fights throughout this driver's top 10. There's a lot of fights still in the constructors. So, Cody, you take the drivers. I'll handle the constructor side.
Right. So the Drivers' Championship, as we said last weekend, is wrapped up with Max Verstappen being crowned Drivers' Champion for 2024. However, there still are a few spots that are up for bragging rights. So Max Verstappen, P1 for Red Bull with 429 points. Lando Norris still holding on to P2 for McLaren at 349 points. But after this race, Charles Leclerc in P3 for Ferrari is only 8 points behind Lando, which is really kind of amazing in my opinion. So he's at 341 points. Oscar Piastri in P4 for McLaren at 291 points. And then Carlos Sainz a little bit behind Oscar, but it's not impossible for him to pass up Oscar. Carlos in P5 for Ferrari at 272 points. George Russell getting pretty good haul of points lately. He is in P6, the first of the two Mercedes drivers at 235, and he continues to open up the gap a little bit over his teammate Lewis Hamilton in the other Mercedes in P7 at 211 points. Sergio Perez had another rough weekend this time around. I don't think he got any points, not in the sprint, not in the Grand Prix. So having a rough go of things. I was going to say as of late, but really this entire season. So he is in P8 in the other Red Bull at 152 points. Fernando Alonso holding on to that ninth place spot, and it looks like he's pretty much sealed into P9 at this point for Aston Martin at 68 points. And then Nico Hülkenberg still holding on to 10th place for Haas at 37 points, despite having a bit of a rough weekend himself.
Yes, only 1 point in front of, I think, Pierre Gasly. That P10 spot, as we've said, is very, very hot. And yeah, who thought we were going to say amazing. Pierre Gasly coming up out of nowhere here. But yeah, lots of interesting things to see if any of this changes after the last round. But moving into the constructors, the big fight obviously is for P1, and that McLaren Mercedes continues to lead after this round. They are up to 640 points on the season. But not far behind them now is second place Ferrari. They have narrowed the gap to 21 points, so they check in with 619 points. P3 officially eliminated from P1 in the constructors. That is Red Bull Racing Powertrains. More than likely, they will finish in P3 in the constructors. P4 also locked in at this point. Mathematically, no up or down, no matter what happens in the last race. That is Mercedes, so they will finish P4 on the season. P5 is Aston Martin. They check in with 92 points, so they're up a little bit there. Good, some points there for Fernando Alonso. P6, here's where it all comes down to. This is the other big fight to watch all throughout the Abu Dhabi weekend. Alpine now lead this by 5 points. 59 points, thanks to Pierre Gasly's P5 that nobody, including ourselves, saw coming. P6 is Haas. The 2 points from the sprint keep Haas in contention here. So there is still a shot. It's dwindling on them a little bit, but they're still in the game. Only 5 points behind, but on 54 points is Haas. P8 is the V-Carb team. They did not have a very good Qatar weekend across the board, other than a little bit of showing in the sprint. So yeah, that P6 for them does not look like it's going to happen. More than likely, they will finish P8. They check in with 46 points. P9 is Williams. They remain on 17 points. That is more than likely where they will finish. And P10, we finally get, here's Rachel Fleming. This one's for you again. Kick Sauber Ferrari. No more 0 points for you. They check in with 4 points on the season. All right, so you have heard our takes on what we saw over the course of this weekend. A lot of weird things going on in a race that was anything but straightforward. Now it's time to open it up to your takes on the weekend, the fan email segment. We've got our regulars here, including the aforementioned Rachel Fleming. She will be a part of this for sure. Cody, what do our fans have to say?
Our first fan email comes from Dave Doherty. Thank you, Dave. And he says, "Hi, team. Let's get to the point. Why on earth is Perez in that car? This is getting very uncomfortable to watch. What did you make of the contact with Colapinto versus Ocon? Their collision. Do we have any thoughts? I think Lewis is ready for the Ferrari seat. Guy is very much not doing much in the Mercedes. And what were your thoughts on the second yellow flag situation? Was it slowly done by the FIA? So a few good things here. Yes, it's been uncomfortable to watch Sergio Perez for a while now because, like I've said many times before, like Perez as a person, seems like a really nice guy. Seems like he wants to do a good job, and he has done very good things in the past. He's got several race wins under his belt. That first one that he got for Racing Point was very exciting and very good to see. Had the longest wait for a race win of anybody. And yeah, now it's getting painful. And saying since, last year, like early on last year, that maybe he wasn't suited for the seat anymore. And yeah, this year we thought he was going to bounce back because he had a few good podiums in the beginning. And now it hurts. He is, like I said before, there are 4 teams that have produced race-winning cars this year. Red Bull being one of them, and Red Bull has one driver who is the drivers' champion, and the other one is 8th out of the 8 drivers that drive for those 4 teams that have had race-winning cars. So the discrepancy between the two of them is monstrous, and I'm seeing more and more blurbs in the media now that he might actually finally be done, despite what Red Bull has claimed leading up to this point. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens after Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, I mean, the rhetoric around Sergio, at least even from Christian Horner, has changed. And it changed kind of significantly after this race, where in the past it's always been Sergio has a contract, he's our driver, we expect him to be in the car come Australia in 2025. To now, it was, well, it's really Sergio's call on whether or not he's in the car in Australia in 2025. And that tells me Red Bull do not want to fire him because they would have to pay that contract out. So what it almost sounds like, what Christian Horner was angling for was, hey, Sergio, is this not no longer fun for you? We'll give you an out if you'd like to take it. Let's negotiate your out. Interesting that that's kind of where this is going, but it is definitely down. I mean, it also reveals the not so secret part that it's money. What's keeping him in that seat is the money. It's the sponsorship money that he brings in, and $20 million is $20 million. That's a lot. To walk away from that is not an easy decision by any stretch of thinking. So that's what's keeping Sergio in the car. And the question is Sergio tired of hearing it week after week after week and not being able to produce? And if he is, he's going to have to call time on his career because it's obvious Red Bull are not going to push him out.
Yeah, which is kind of frightening because you would expect that they would, want to fight for the money in the Constructors' Championship, and you got one world-class driver and you've got one. I'm trying to think of a nice way to say it, and there isn't really a nice one at this point. You got one driver that can't make it work. So, yeah, if they want to finish higher than P3 in the Constructors' Championship next year, they're going to have to find someone else for that seat. Is where I stand on it. As far as the Lewis stuff, yeah, we kind of already discussed that he seemed very dejected at the end of this weekend. Seemed like he's been ready to leave that Mercedes team for most of this year. I think he hasn't been able to get a hold of the Mercedes car pretty much since we've gone into this aerodynamic set of regulations, and Mercedes hasn't been able to get a hold on it, which is disappointing for them because considering the heights that they were at before, now they've gone 3 seasons here without a particularly competitive car, and I think he's just he wants to be back in that competitive level again. I'm sure he misses it, and it's going to be exciting to see him in Ferrari. It's going to be really weird to see him in a red jumpsuit. But I think he's excited. I think we're all excited to see what's going to happen. And he says he's confident he's still got it. And I think that's good enough for me. I don't think his confidence will be crushed until something like getting absolutely walloped by Charles Leclerc happens. And I don't see that happening. For a prediction here going into next year, I do think Charles Leclerc is going to beat Lewis Hamilton. I don't think it's going to be a monstrous gap. I think we're going to see kind of similar to what we saw this year, where Leclerc is going to beat out Sainz, but it's relatively close, and they both got wins under their belts.
That's what I would definitely hope so. I guess I'll take the first one. The Colapinto versus Ocon, I think that's more definitely on Ocon than Colapinto. I think Colapinto was just more a passenger of what I saw. It looked like Ocon was on the inside. It kind of got caught in kind of no man's land, and Colapinto's on the outside and just trying to get around the outside of that corner and got caught up in it. So, it's a first lap, turn one, classic kerfuffle type of situation. Going back to Lewis a little bit, I don't think he realized how much of a toll making the announcement when he did was going to take. And it also makes me wonder if that thing got leaked before anybody, Mercedes, Ferrari, Lewis, Charles, Fred Vasseur, thought that it was going to come out, because the natural course probably would have been to have that come out sometime over the summer break, and not be a thing. But this has now been a thing since day one in this car. And when Lewis has struggled, you can just tell he's ready to not be in that car anymore. That particular car, let's put it that way. So it strikes me that it's taken this much of a toll on him, and the hope is that he's able to bounce back. Now, everything that this guy has done in his career to now has told me that he's pretty darn strong mentally, but he's got to find it next year, because Leclerc is not going to wait for him there, and nobody's going to wait for him. So if he's 6th or 7th in the first race, that's when if there's a pucker factor, that's where I've got a pucker factor. Let's put it that way.
I've never heard that one before. Pucker factor is pretty good. Yeah, he's gonna if he doesn't find it next year, he's gonna give it until the regulation change. And I think at that point, if he doesn't find it, it's gonna be, he's gonna start actually thinking about throwing in the towel, which is very sad to see.
But again, if he wins in the Ferrari, there's hymns in Maranello in his name that they will write songs. If he wins the championship, that's the A scenario that he's going to go for.
All right. Sorry about that. I am fighting with my cats at the moment. Our next fan email comes from Rachel Fleming. Thanks, you, Rachel.
I think we just figured out what happened in the steward's room. Maybe they released the cats.
Oh my God. I would hope that they would have some kind of convenient excuse like that, but nope, that's just me. Thank you, Rachel, for your email. And she says, well, that was a quiet, incident-free race. Oh, sorry, I meant the sprint. Yeah, the race was chaos. Firstly, the big incident with that mirror. I don't care if a VSC or a safety car disadvantages anyone. That mirror on the track was a danger to drivers and ruined the race. Safety should always be first. Then they have the gall to say that Lando was a danger for not lifting with the yellows on that straight. Practice what you preach. Once again, Perez watch. I hope he had reliability issue, because if he did that by himself, then it would be cherry on the cake. I did quote to myself when he said, I lost drive. What you mean is I have lost my drive. That's quite the burn. Not impressed by Hamilton wanting to retire a healthy car. I know he had a bad day, but come on, you are being paid millions by Mercedes and you just jumped the start and spent the pit lane. Just get on with it. I saw a rumor that Ocon might not be driving in Abu Dhabi. That rumor has now been confirmed. Hardly a big surprise. He looks like he might do a Kimi 2013 and looks completely done for 2024. And finally, Sauber Watch. Points for Joe. What an amazing result. 8th. Great for him and for the team. Brilliant quality and brilliant result. What a moment for them. No team this season has 0 points, which is a fantastic thing to see. Oh, and Max Verstappen wins. It's nice. It's a minor point compared to everything else. No, for me, the Max Verstappen thing is a major point, but definitely something we've seen plenty of times before. So, yeah, one of the less interesting parts of this weekend. Big happy moment for this was the choke new points and the Sauber not finishing out the season with nothing. So I'm sure they got to be going into the end of the season, at least having that going for them and feeling good about it. We kind of talked about the Ocon thing a little bit and how that wasn't necessarily how it originally looked with the being fired by the team. It turns out it may not really quite be like that. We have known for a while that though that rift has kind of formed between Ocon and the team, and since he had that collision with Gasly back in Monaco, where the team really started to not be behind him anymore and say nasty things about his performance there. We've kind of seen the writing on the wall there. It did look bad from the outside that he wasn't going to be participating in Abu Dhabi. Now it seems like it, may have, or that Haas did factor into this decision, wanting to, get Ocon working for them sooner, and it coincided with Alpine wanting to get Jack Doohan in the car sooner, so they can start to evaluate how he can do all the sooner.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of Rachel's points. She's always very much on point, and I think the chaos is definitely the theme of the day, especially in the second half of the race. I agree with you completely about the either throw the VSC, get the mirror off of there. There was no good that was going to come from leaving that mirror on the track, and it got taken to the nth degree when you saw one get destroyed and then two ruin two drivers' races when they were on the racing line and had nothing to do, shouldn't have had anything to do with literally a broken mirror. So it's just kind of ridiculous. I gave my views kind of on the Lando penalty. Yeah, it's a penalty. I did think it was kind of harsh. I just hope that, like I said, later on in life, we don't find out that there was any other influence other than the stewards looking at a rule book to determine what that penalty is. As long as the proper procedure was followed and there's no outside influence, I'm fine with it. I'll take it. Sergio, we talked a lot about Sergio, but it was a really weird spin, and it was really weird on the timing. And you want to talk about another thing. Why did they not just keep the safety car out when he was stopped in turn 15? They let the race go again for like 3/4 of a lap before they had to bring the safety car back out a second time. I mean, it was just stop the procedure. When he's clearly distressed and going to have to get out of the car. So whether it was a mechanical gremlin or whatever it was just a very strange incident.
Strange incident this weekend?
Yeah, I know. Strange things are happening to me. But I mean, we talked already at length, I think, about Lewis. I hope that he puts it together, drives in Abu Dhabi, and gets the send off that I hope he thinks he deserves, and he's definitely earned that much. And then again, Rachel, I was channeling you when I saw the Zhao result to see that was very good for them. Everybody gets some shine on them this season, and that's important because. I mean, it's just these, especially for all the mechanics and for people who you never get to see on TV who work on that car. tirelessly throughout this ridiculous schedule that we've got to finally get some good things for that team. It's very important. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's not going to be the same driver lineup next year. It's not going to be Zhao or Valtteri, but whoever comes in, and there's still going to be legacy people in that organization, and they're going to remember this moment. It's going to inspire them when they get to the next set of regs. So, I've seen both sides of it as a McLaren fan. I've seen them do really well, and I've seen them be P9 in the constructors as well. And Honda engines failing left, right, and center, and in a year that you just wanted to get over. But when you get a moment, it's really fun to still savor the moment. So for all the Sauber fans out there, this one is definitely for you.
Mm-hmm. All very good points there. I would touch on the Hamilton bit. However, I did glance ahead here at the Formula's email, and I think we're going to touch on Lewis Hamilton bit here. Actually, a little afraid to read it. All right, our next email comes from the Formula. Thank you, Mr. Formula. And he says, the race isn't over at the time of this message, but I already have enough to say. Once again, the FIA have demonstrated their insatiable desire to look like buffoons. Move the mirror. Instead, you cost 2 drivers the race. Imagine if that had happened, or if that had been a drivers' championship deciding blunder. Yes, that would have been quite the mess. And now on for the really meaty part here. Also, Lewis Hamilton can go piss directly into a strong winter wind. He's a ridiculously highly compensated competitor. When things don't go his way, he quite literally asks to quit. What a self-righteous punk of a man-child. This same guy thinks he's a good fit for Ferrari, the most prestigious racing organization in the world, but he's a bona fide quitter. Get lost. So sick of this woe is me attitude when he's out there as a 7-time champion, making many, many millions, yet asking to quit in front of his fans. And P.S. Checo, if you're hearing this, remember, green means go, though your career is now likely looking at a red light. Man, that's probably the most brutal email that I've had to read on here. Ouch, man.
Mr. Formula ate his Wheaties Sunday morning because hot damn.
Yes.
Those are some bombs. All right. Let me try to attack it one. The FIA, yes, move the mirror. I know there's sci-fi episodes entitled Shattered Mirror, but if that had been like a actual championship decider blunder or something like that, we would have just had Shattered Mirror Gate and all of this other stuff, and you could just, the memes would have been there forever.
Yes, we've already seen what a decision blunder like that does to a driver's championship. It happened in 2021, and we're still talking about it. We still can't let it go, and it's been 3 years. So that's what could have happened. I'm just happy that it didn't happen in that situation, because Formula One doesn't need more of 2021 to bitch about.
we don't need any of that. And I've talked already kind of at length about Lewis Hamilton. I get the take. I understand it, what it looks like. I don't think, it is kind of one of those cases where, and it's also kind of on FOM for broadcasting every bit of it. And, they know he's a lightning rod, and they know that people will pay attention to it. That's why they do it. But you should probably just go run your race and finish where you are, get out of the car and be done with it. It's definitely, like I said, even in the first time we talked about it, I didn't think it was a very good look for him. I don't think he would, in retrospect, after calming down, think that that's how he should have acted. I think I know he's better than that. And I certainly, like I said, I don't want to see a headline like Thursday saying that he's not going to drive in Abu Dhabi, because that would just be really crappy.
Yeah, that would be really crappy. And I'm not sure I would go quite myself to the length of calling him a self-righteous punk of a man-child, despite the fact that is a nice diss. With these drivers, they're in such high pressure, intense situations when they're in the car. We see their emotions run very high all the time, and then they get out of the car, they have time to cool off, and they return to being reasonable human beings again, and they will oftentimes say, yeah, I said that in the moment, I didn't really mean it, as an emotional situation, especially when they get crashes and stuff like that. And I would give Lewis the benefit of the doubt that this is one of those situations. He's coming to the end of a crappy year with the team. I'm sure he did have a couple wins, and those were fantastic. To me, his British Grand Prix victory is how he's leaving Mercedes in my mind. He had that one last awesome victory to leave the team with, and the rest of it just kind of is going to probably be forgotten. But for him, he's been struggling with this car and this team for 3 years now, and I'm sure is just waiting and wishing for it to be done. And being in the high pressure situation in the race when it's not going well and just continues to get worse. He had that the penalty. We didn't even really talk about the penalty for jumping the start, and then the race wasn't going well, and then he got the other penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Both of those mistakes were on him, and I'm sure he probably felt that. So I'm thinking that just added to his frustration. And like you said, he gets out of the car at the end, he cools off, he realizes, well, he probably knows right away, maybe that's not exactly what I meant, but then he probably afterwards realizes, I probably shouldn't have actually said anything, because now it's going to be on the record, even though that's not truly how I feel about it. So I'm going to try to give him the benefit of the doubt there, but it does sound bad when, he's like you said, that he's a 7-time world champion. He's making money hand over fist to be in this position, driving in this team, and he wants to throw in the towel early. Not a good look.
Yeah, and it's not good for his brand, which he does take extreme measures to try to preserve all the time. So I think I'm just going to kind of leave it there. Like I said, I want him to be in Abu Dhabi. I want him to get the send off that I think somebody of his ilk deserves, and I would want that for anybody, Lewis or any, like when Fernando left McLaren, I was glad they gave him a send off and they gave him the special livery and all that stuff. So all of that, I want to see all of that, especially in Abu Dhabi. And again, Checo, green means go. Anytime you'd like to, start your race, that would be appreciated. I've never seen an overtake in the pit lane before. Now I've seen one. So that was a new and inventive thing. I didn't know we could do that.
I gotta wonder if Red Bull is doing this to him now, pretty much wanting to push him out and negotiate, and just being like, look, like if you keep going in the team, you're going to be relegated to a glorified test driver for the rest of your time here. And I mean, if they're doing something like that, that's pretty hard ball to play, but that's maybe what they got to do if they want to get him out of the seat for cheap.
And again, it go back to the shift in the rhetoric. We've not seen it said that way. We've seen it said that Checo needs to improve. We've seen it said Checo is our driver, but we've never seen Checo needs to decide his own future. And now we're seeing Checo is deciding his own future, which is definitely, it's a shift. It's a big shift. So we'll continue to follow for sure. All right. Well, thank you everybody for your takes and the bombs and all of the good stuff. We appreciate all of it. When I get stuff like this, it just kind of makes me smile. It makes me also good that we kind of covered a lot of this stuff before we even got here. So it means we're talking about the right stuff, and we're talking about the stuff you guys want us to talk about. So appreciate all of the feedback as well. All right. So we're going to move into our awards. I feel like I'm all bombed out. And now we're getting to the rubbish where I usually yell at the world. But Cody, I'm going to let you go first because I know you got a good one here. I know you felt a certain way about the thing on Saturday after the 3.5 hour deliberation. So take it away. What you got?
Yes, my rubbish award is specifically going to go to the one place grid penalty that was awarded to Max Verstappen. I really didn't think a penalty was warranted in that situation. It seemed like almost like the FIA wanted to give him some kind of penalty, and they had to go fishing for a reason to give it to him. And then they found out that maybe it wasn't really a good enough reason for a 3 grid penalty. And so they downgraded it to a 1 grid penalty, which is, I mean, it has some effect. He didn't even lose like the road that he was on though, so it really felt like kind of like almost like a nothing penalty. It wasn't worth giving it to him. They should have just, like you said, given him some kind of fine and to try to make him not do it again, even though there wasn't really too much that he did. But I think even that one place grid penalty was too much.
Very good. So my rubbish is going to go out not to the stewards necessarily, but this one is just aimed directly at the FIA president, Mohammed bin Sulayem. And it's kind of a cumulative award. And it's, for one, for all the stuff we know he's done. And that stuff's been documented. The firing of Niels Vidic, the firing via a text message of Tim Mayer. If you've ever heard Tim Mayer interviewed, is one of the most straight arrow, straight shooters, volunteer guys who lives and breathes and loves Formula One. That you are alienating that kind of guy over an innocuous comment is insane to me. And it hurts the sport. You've hurt your own sport by getting rid of a guy like Tim Mayer. And that's on you, MBS. And you got to own that one. And then I'm also going to give it to the FIA president for all the stuff that maybe we don't know that he's done, in case there's more out there that just hasn't been reported yet. Because it feels like this is the defiant scenario, which is usually what I hear right in advance of somebody about to get fired. And I think he's not done anything to keep his job other than maybe benefact the people who got him elected in the first place. But to try to come in, you were the change candidate in that FIA election, and you've done nothing but turn it upside down. And your organization right now is a laughing stock, and people are laughing at you week after week after week. And you're hemorrhaging good, qualified, competent personnel for no reason other than to stoke your own ego. And that's bullshit, and it's wrong. So, MBS, my rubbish is for you.
That turns you out you were not bombed out.
Had one left over. The Tim Mayer thing, just, I read that and I'm like, my God. And it's a discussion for a whole nother recording, the actual detail. But if you want to read into it, there's definitely good reporting out there about it. It's petty. It's just petty in the worst way. All right, so we will move into our analysis paralysis. I think we're kind of in the same boat here. Cody, what you got?
All right, for analysis paralysis, I'm going to go with the whole mirror on the track incident, because it just didn't make any sense for that it took so long for meaningful intervention. We've talked about it, and it even seemed, a lot of times we'll talk about that, oh, well, we can look back on this, and hindsight is 2020, and the correct decision to make only becomes clear at that point. But no, I think in this moment, everyone was looking at that. The commentators, the spectators, you and me watching the race. It seemed pretty clear that Amir wasn't going to go anywhere, that it was on a part of the track where you really don't want Amir to be, because it's maybe not like right on the racing line, but it's in the only zone on the track where you can really pass, because it's the only DRS zone. So someone's going to hit it eventually. Maybe we should do something and get rid of it, like a VSC. It's kind of the whole reason it's there. And they couldn't figure that out. And our new race director, it's only his second race weekend in Formula One, but he was a race director, I believe, in MotoGP, right? So
he was F2 and F3.
Okay.
He did a lot.
So he's got plenty of experience as a race director. So I don't understand what exactly was going on that this took so long to sort out, and it contributed to ruining a couple drivers' races. Actually, a lot of drivers' races, if you consider all the butterfly effect that came with it.
Yeah, I mean, for something that should have been just a simple thing to morph into what it has. This one goes out to the race director, Rui Marquez, who I don't want to give him total fault. I think he maybe had one too many jobs that he had to do, because he also had to do F2 and he had to do F1 Academy because, the other people at the FIA that normally would have done those jobs all quit. So, not totally his fault, but you got to own it when it happens. Get rid of the mirror, man. That's all you had to do, and you avoid all this nonsense. All right, so let's talk about something happy. Let's talk about the dark horse of the day. I think this is universally, it's pretty much right on. Zhao Guan Yu and Kick Sauber for breaking the duck at the end of the season. Good on you guys. I'm glad they went and took a photo of it, like they had won a race. That's an awesome moment. Good, and we've made plenty of fun of them over the course of this season. Every time I would have to say, still 0 points, still 0 points. You're trying to make fun of a bad situation, and it's hard to do. This time we finally no longer get to say 0 points. They have 4 points, and they are well earned. Good on you, Zhao.
Yes, my award also goes to Zhou Guanyu. It is the dark horse of all dark horses this year. A driver with no points, driving for a team with no points, managing to put some on the board in the penultimate race of the season is definitely something to be commended. And I'm happy that he was able to do it because, unfortunately, Zhou Guanyu's career in Formula One has not been an easy one. He's pretty much driven a pretty crappy car the entire time he's been in the sport. He's shown flashes of being very good at times. This year has been a real struggle for him, it seems, and it is good that he gets at least one last good thing to show for before he leaves the sport at the end of this year.
Very good. The Rachel Fleming Dark Horse Award goes to Sauber and Zhao Guanyu. All right, and driver of the day. I'll go first with this one. Got to give this one to Max, and got to give this one to Red Bull for taking whatever that car was. A car that could not keep up with one Nico Hulkenberg in the sprint, and turned it around and made it good. And however they got there, and that's a heck of an engineering feat. And it's good on Max for driving the car and setting the standard. So I'll recognize a good effort when I see one. So Max Verstappen, this one's for you.
I am also going to give this award to Max Verstappen. This weekend, just like Brazil, and maybe even in some ways more so, just goes to show that if you want to take away the Drivers' Championship from Max Verstappen, you're going to have to give the fight of your life, because even when the car is not at its best, we saw it happen in this microcosm of a weekend where the car wasn't great. They were struggling for the performance in the sprint. They managed to make miracles happen and turn around, get pole, and Max, though it wasn't like a clear dominant 20-second up the road victory, he still pulled it together, took the lead out of the first corner, and managed to hold off everyone else. It's just, he's really dominant. And I look forward to next year when it's hopefully going to be very competitive between many cars straight from the beginning of the year, because we all know it, a big part of Max winning the championship this year came from the fact that for those first, between 5 and 9 races, he was driving the best car, and it did look like he was going to run away with it again. It only was after that it started to even out. So it's looking like next year it will be evened out from the beginning. We're going to get, hopefully, I'm knocking on wood here because you never know. We could get a Sebastian Vettel situation where he ends up just winning like 9 races in a row at some point and just runs away with it. But I'm hoping it's going to be a very close fight. We're going to have a lot of top caliber drivers in good cars involved in that fight. We're going to have Max Verstappen. We're going to have Lewis Hamilton, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, possibly, George Russell in the Mercedes if they can figure out something a little better with that car to get it more consistent. We're going to have Kimi Antonelli, who, is a little bit of a wild card right now. It's going to be his first year, but he's a highly touted talent. Like it could be a season for the ages. I am hoping. But for right now, Max is showing that he's the guy to beat.
Sign me up for 2025 after that one. Woo! I'm game. Let's go. Let's go.
Excellent.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm in next year. That's for damn sure.
Now I'm hoping it just doesn't fall off after all that.
You hyped it up so well. Wow. F1 public relations. This is your guy right here. This is your guy.
You go. I'm the
there
F1 hype man.
Yep. Love it. Love it. All right. So now we got to talk about predictions, which it was hilarious. I think I watched the first practice and I went, oh, they're already under our lap times. Boy, did we miss the boat on that one. And we thought we were going quicker. Anyway, Cody, you had actually a pretty good weekend. Does the sprint help you out? And Lando's magnanimous gesture certainly helped you out. So you got 5 points. You got the quali time because you were quicker than me. You got the P3 on the podium with Piastri getting it there. You got the fastest lap time again because you were quicker than me. And here's where Lando, you should thank him because you got P1 with Oscar Piastri and you got P2 for Lando Norris in the sprint. So 2 points there. I did not have as good of a weekend. I was around your predictions, but I wasn't in your predictions. So I only got 1 point this weekend. I got P4 on the bonus pick because that's where George Russell finished. But that's all I was able to manage in all of the predicting. So you take the weekend, and well done to you, sir, on that. All right. So 22 down. 22 or 23? 23 down, 1 to go. Abu Dhabi beckons. It is a track that can sometimes be a frustrating watch. It is a track that can also lend to some weird things happening, which we have seen before. There are constructor fights to be adjudicated. There are drivers' championship standings points to get adjudicated. There's 6th place in the constructors. There's P1 in the constructors. There's a whole lot going to happen. We're unfortunately going to be, not unfortunately, we're going to not be in town. We're going to have, they say Las Vegas is the city where you don't sleep, and apparently I'm not sleeping next weekend because of where the session times are, if I'm watching any of it live. I don't even know, well, we'll have to discuss if we can even fit in a formal preview at this point, because we actually have to get ready for this trip. So keep attuned to our social media if there are any interesting news stories. Obviously, I've already kind of broken the Jack Doohan story. If there's anything else that affects the course of the weekend, we'll kind of bring it to you. But Abu Dhabi's pretty much going to be our venue, which we kind of know. Whether you like it or not, this is where we're going to have our deciding stuff. Very early times for us. So keep it tuned. We'll see if we get a preview in. If not, we will definitely be back to recap it all when we are back in our respective cold houses here in Chicago. And we'll definitely do our best to recap the title deciders, except not the drivers, because that's already done. But anyway, Cody, any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Yeah, just a few. Abu Dhabi, not always the best track for racing, in my humble opinion. Not the best venue in terms of the on-track action for the last race of the season. However, for what it's worth, it is a really cool-looking facility. It does make for a cool facility to see on TV. I am happy that we do still have some action to be decided here in the last race. Last year everything was wrapped up so early. Didn't matter once it got to Abu Dhabi, but at least we do still have some spots in the Drivers' Championship and, more importantly, the Constructors' Championship itself to fight for. It is just kind of just timing that the last race of the year is going to be while we are enjoying ourselves in Las Vegas. And, this stuff was going to be on pretty painfully early for us, even by Central Time. Now it's going to be even a couple hours earlier. And we're going to have been out, gambling, partying, drinking. So it could be interesting to see if we see this live. Me and you might just stumble down to one of the big TVs to place a couple bets, in the wee hours in the morning at some point. But no matter what happens, I look forward to it. We will see what happens. And just the last little point, I am quite proud of myself for holding it together during the fan email segment when that little orange cat that you saw up here was trying to tear apart my setup. I was quite proud of myself for carrying right on through that. So even though you guys couldn't see what was going on, it was turning into a shit show.
There was chaos on his end. He's a professional podcaster, folks. He's going to be F1's new public relations officer, and he's a professional podcaster. That is Cody right there for you. So take a bow, sir. Way to go. Yeah, we'll see if we actually get a preview together. We've got to pack and get ready for this little trip that we're going to go do. I will have my phone with me, so I will try to pass along any news or anything relevant. But if you made it to the end of all of this, thank you for sticking with us for some of the good, some of the bad, some of the weird. This has been one of our more adventurous recordings for sure. So for Cody, it's been Andy. One more to go, and then we see where we all sit. But come on back when you can. And as always, may all your laps be fast.